front lines of the next frontier, and that is the business of activation. And many of you are healthcare providers, you're doctors, you're researchers, massage therapists, or whatever, your physical therapists, or whatever capacity you hold that is unique to you. I want you to own that. I want you to possess that, because then I want to share with you why this matters right here, right now, and to each and every one of you. Because the business of activation, it's where we don't wait for the future of healthcare, we activate it. And this is literally the new frontier. So I want you to realize you're not here by accident. And I hope you sense that. You are here by divine purpose. You're here because you already sense what's happening, and you already know what laggers are going to be looking back in hindsight and realizing they missed a massive, massive opportunity. And I hope none of you miss that opportunity. And this is not about treating symptoms. It's not about managing decline. This is about activating the human body to perform, to heal, and to thrive.
Yes.
The way it was originally designed to. And that movement has a name, and that name is cellular activation. And that is what we alone possess currently, the understanding and the practicality to actually engage that process, and you're already here. So whatever your ID number is, and if you're here as a guest and you're with somebody, I really want you to pay extra close attention. Because the ID number that you have, I kind of liken it to the Willy Wonka golden ticket. Because there is no better time to use the knowledge that I'm hoping I'm going to give you in a timeline that illustrates it's already in motion. It's been in motion for almost 2 decades. And you are here at the right time to grasp this. So this, my friends, is not just science. It's not just healthcare. This is the business of activation, and it's the professional opportunity of a lifetime.
Yes. Woo! Yeah.
And I want to ask you this, just think about this question. What if the greatest untapped breakthrough in human performance, health span, and longevity was already coded within us, waiting to be activated? Because that is the reality. So I'm going to share also with the old model is broken. We're seeing it more and more every day. We're hearing about it in the news more and more every day. We're becoming more aware of it every day. That this is not about treating symptoms. It's about activating dormant potential, or maybe even potential you never even really have maximized yet, but that's been in you the entire time. That is, if I could summarize, that's the approach of LifeVantage and why we are so blessed to be here. So I want to talk about literally the first domino to fall in this timeline, in this activation timeline. It was a publication of a book in 2002 called Never Be Sick Again by Raymond Francis. And I love the provocative title here, the part in green. Health is a choice. Learn how to choose it. And what he wrote in this book and summarized and really dropped the gauntlet and got a lot of professional criticism from his colleagues is that there's only one cause of disease, and that's cellular malfunction. And there's only 2 causes of cellular malfunction: toxicity and deficiency. In other words, something in our internal or external environment, or both, that is poisoning us, not allowing our cells to perform adequately. And when they don't perform adequately, they start to malfunction. And if left long enough, it will become some diagnosis from some well-educated doctor that gives you. And the other is deficiency. Your cells are deficient in something. They're needing something that they don't have. And the longer they go without having, the more malfunctioning they are. And the more malfunctioning they are, the more disease is likely, and then the diagnosis comes. But it's a very predictable process. So this gauntlet being dropped right here was super pivotal. And interestingly enough, less than a year later, Protandim came out. The very first activator, the game changer, Protandim NRF2 Synergizer, and literally we have been able to say ever since that oxidative stress has met its match. So it doesn't matter how many blueberries you eat, or what kind of kale juice, or whether you make kale. If you don't even like kale and you found that you put seasoning on it, put it in a baking tray, and you make kale chips out of it, it still is never anything compared to this. So we know that now. And I hear some chuckles out there because I've done that. Marcy and I have made some pretty amazing kale chips, actually. But I thought it was pretty amazing on this timeline that a little less than a year later, in the same year, the Human Genome Project was completed. This was something that began in 1990. It was an international effort among researchers all over the world studying and mapping the human DNA strain, looking for the cure of all disease. And it was completed in 2003. Again, I don't think it's coincidental that Protandim came out before this. But Protandim was already activating something they were studying. It just didn't know that they were studying it, and that we had already harnessed the potential. But I love what they say in this, or what the summary of this is, that genes are not your fate. They're your toolkit. And LifeVantage has taken that one step further. Cellular activation is how you unlock that toolkit. That is something they missed. They tried to see it, but they missed it, and no one, even now, 22 years later, we are the only company truly in the bullseye of that target, despite the fact that everybody is, or a lot of people, a lot of podcasts, as Sean was mentioning, a lot of books, and some of the ones you probably have already read, and you're reading and going, yes, they're talking about our activation story. They just haven't said activation. That is the reality, my friends. And then in 2009, this amazing company that we are all part of joined the network marketing community. And I would even tell you, they didn't go willingly. It was a kicking and screaming, our CEO at the time, David Brown, trying to prove to our board that there was some significance in this network marketing space to give people like yourselves the ability to share this information, to share it with passion and with purpose, rather than having them find it somewhere else or walk into a GNC and hopefully they find that dusty bottle with a $60 price tag that said guaranteed to reduce free radical damage and not even know what it meant, and then go for the $15 bottle of vitamin C right next to it, because that's what was happening over and over and over again. And then when LifeVantage joined the network marketing space, planted the flag as the first activation company, it's been an amazing ride ever since. Well, then in 2013, I don't know if you guys know this, but CalicoLabs.com, think about this, when Google and Apple and Genentech collaborated to form Calico Labs, they had a quest. And they had a quest to take the brightest minds, Nobel laureate scientists. There's 27 Nobel laureate scientists, meaning scientists who have received the Nobel Prize in their field of medicine. 27 of them are working for this company right now, trying to find what we already have. And in 2013, in 12 years, they brought 0 products to market with the brightest minds in the world. And not because they don't have altruistic intentions. I don't know what their intentions are, and I think they're probably amazing, but they just haven't found what we found because they're looking in the pharmaceutical side of the equation and not the nutraceutical side of the equation that is empowering the body. They are looking for ways of tampering with it. And so I want to share this with you. So if you look at the companies, Apple, the most valuable company in the world, $3.6 trillion. Google, the 4th most powerful and valuable company in the world, $1.9 trillion. When 2 of the top 4 most valuable companies in the world are investing billions into something, you should probably take notice. And that is, they're investing, they're trying to find that bullseye. They just don't know, well, they're trying, but they don't know we are already here. We already have 5 products to market, and as you heard Christina talking about it, we've got many more to come in activation pathways. But this should let you know that when these kinds of minds with this kind of money employ those types of scientists to find what we already have, you should take notice. You should be very, very aware, and that is not by accident. 3 years later, we introduced Protandim NRF1 Synergy and tapped into the ability to influence and increase human mitochondria, the cells, the energy of the cells. And if one of those things we talked about, toxicity and deficiency being one of the causes, or the only 2 causes of cellular malfunction, what if energy deficiency is the cause of that cellular malfunction? We didn't know. Well, we knew. We didn't know if we could do it. We knew the hypothesis was out there, and then when this product came out, it was proven that we could do it. The powerhouse is back on in the cell. We've just given people the ability to overcome the things that brought them to the malfunction, that gave them the disease, that took them to the doctor in the first place. We can reverse engineer that and not have to worry about that anymore. Pretty amazing. And then 6 years later, our third to round out the Tri-Synergizer, as you heard Sveta comedically and very adequately and intelligently talk about the power of NAD activation. It's incredible. The potential is endless with this. And as the timeline, as you see the numbers in red, those are our activators. There's 2 more that are come. The numbers in black are just other things that have happened, and you're gonna see a little crossover, some things that have happened in the same year. So in 2022, collagen activation became possible by activating the fibroblasts in your body with our True Science Liquid Collagen and looking and feeling younger. Pretty amazing, pretty amazing. And one of the things about this, and I love the way Dr. Brett talks about this is the connective tissue. It's the glue that holds us together. And when he put that so eloquently, it helped me understand the magnitude of what we have. And if you think about my background as a chiropractor, when people come to me with pains and aches and pains, whether they're chronic or acute, they're always usually involving some kind of a joint or some kind of area in the body that isn't functioning the way it used to function. And joints have 5 tissues that make them up. They've got the bone, you've got the muscle, you've got the ligament, you've got the tendon, and you've got the cartilage. And guess what all 5 of those factors of every joint have in common? It's this right here, collagen. So when we can turn back on the body's ability to make collagen again, and what is one of the things that goes along with aging? Immobility or lack of movement. When we can turn that capacity back on again naturally, the way it was supposed to happen, not tampering with it artificially, what we can do is endless. What we can provide for people is endless. What gets better? That same year, another conglomerate, Altos Labs. Who's ever heard of Jeff Bezos? When Jeff Bezos invests billions into something, you should probably pay attention. And so Altos Labs was started in 2022. Altos Labs, and their tagline is they're not just slowing aging, they're reversing it, or at least they're trying to. And again, noble effort, but what do they have in common with Calico Labs and Google and Apple and Genentech, who've invested trillions or billions of dollars? They're looking for the pharmaceutical side of the equation. And no matter how good it is, no matter how great it sounds, no matter how much you pay these Nobel laureate scientists to find something, it is still on the pharmaceutical side. And if you can just look at it this way, and I don't mean to disparage anyone in this room who is a practicing medical doctor. On the contrary, I bow to you because you are providing incredible service for the people that you provide service for. But it's when they need it and you are there to show up. You are a specialist in what you do. That is powerful, it is honorable, and it is making a major difference. But the thing about pharmaceuticals, it's typically treating symptoms to lower them, but it is manipulating the human body chemically. And sometimes that has positive benefits. That's why every single pharmaceutical has a list of side effects. And the confusing part to me is sometimes the side effect is the actual problem that the pharmaceutical was taken for in the first place. That's how we know there's manipulation or tampering. And I'm not saying there's any bad intentions behind it, because there's always a positive side, but there's always a negative side when there's manipulation involved and when there's chemical manipulation involved. But when you are honoring the human biology and you are doing it naturally through natural pathways, the only side effect of that is improved health and wellness, because it's honoring the biology, not tampering with it. And so what Altos Labs is trying to do is find what we already have. And then in 2024, this amazing mind-body system was released. And was it just incredible to hear Julie talk about a 200% increase in GLP-1 naturally by stimulating the natural way that happens in your body? That is revolutionary, my friends. Yes. There are people that are voluntarily going in and taking shots and losing muscle and losing all the other things that come along with it and having side effects because they're trying to do just that. How about just looking within that code, the what if? What if the greatest breakthrough in medicine and health history is already in you, it's codified, it just hasn't been activated yet? That is really what we're doing with this. No shots, no muscle loss, and an incredible, incredible change. You saw the pictures. Okay, now I want to shift gears a little bit to some of the most recent things that have happened. This book, Marcy and I read this book, we listened to this book on our nightly walks And every night we had a discussion about something we heard about this. This book is incredible. And I want to just sing Dr. Casey Means praises. She's the author of this book. She's a Stanford-educated medical doctor. And I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm very prideful about that. And anytime I hear about Stanford University or people graduating from Stanford University, I didn't go there. I didn't even apply because, they wouldn't have let me in anyways. My GPA would not have allowed me to get in there. But when I see and hear the efforts from somebody from Stanford, I have kind of a hometown fanboy expectation. And so Dr. Casey Mean delivers incredibly in this book. Well, there was a couple things she predicted, or that she said. The trends that we're going on, 93% of adults are metabolically unhealthy, most of that due to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes that contributes to that or stems from that. And did you guys hear Kelly yesterday, the astronaut, talk about them studying insulin resistance in space? Hello? If that doesn't tell you that we are on the right track when we read this best-selling book by Dr. Casey Means, and then we hear an astronaut talk about they're studying insulin resistance and the effects of insulin resistance in outer space, we should pay attention right here to what's happening, because she just validated everything that we've done, that we're currently doing, and that we are about to do. And so does this book. That was incredible yesterday. I literally had chills when I heard her say that. And then she goes on to say in this book that 1 out of 3 kids will become type 2 diabetic if we don't change the trajectory of what we know and how we implement what we know. And in this book, she dropped a massive challenge. Now there was some, in the book, she talks about having her own constant glucose monitoring system, which is great. But this book, if you just grasp the signal of this book, the meaning of this book, the message of this book, it should just reaffirm for you that as a consultant or guest, if you're in the room of LifeVantage, this is the place to be. Because we already have what she's looking for in this book and what the readers of the book are wanting. They just don't know that is accessible to them. Also last year, Dr. Peter Attia's book, Outlive. And Dr. Peter Attia, interestingly enough, another Stanford grad, and an incredible, incredible man, an incredible doctor. He's talking about training for the centenarian decathlon. Have you guys ever heard of what are called blue zones? Yeah. There's 5 blue zones that they're researching, and they're places in the world where a congregation of people that routinely live over 100 years old. And it's not by accident, it's by design. It's about the lifestyle that they live, the things that they're implementing in their life, which gives them the outcome. Well, in this book, he talks about that, and he talks about how you and I and the people that we know can harness that same capacity and start developing this centenarian decathlon. And it's interesting what they're talking about, what he's talking about in the book. It was dancing all around the issue of cellular activation without talking about cellular activation. So if you want to know if you're in the right place here at LifeVantage, read these books. And it should give you a resounding, yes, I'm in the right place. Now I just need to open my mouth and talk to the people that are in my sphere of influence. And I love it when it happens outside of the walls of this company, outside the walls of this room, and outside of your sphere of influence, when other people are doing the heavy lifting for your message. Capitalize on that power. And then this year, it just came out, Dr. Stephen Gundry's book, The Gut-Brain Paradox. Reading this book and listening, Marcy and I listened to this. I heard about this book coming out on Ed Milet's podcast when he interviewed Dr. Stephen Gundry, and he was talking about, and he was just saying all of these things, and I was like, he's talking about our GLP-1 mind-body system. He's talking about everything we're talking about without saying the words MB and without talking about our mind-body system and MB Enhance and MB Core, but he may as well have. Because everything he was talking about perfectly lines up with the product that we already had to market before this book ever came out. It's just validating what we're doing. And if you're paying close attention and you're looking for signs, they're everywhere, my friends. So if you are still in this room and you are struggling with, I don't want my patients to think I'm crazy. I don't want them to think I'm just selling them something. I want you to give yourself a gut check and a reality check. Because if you're thinking about your patients now, There are other healthcare providers in your community thinking about the patients of tomorrow. And if you don't get on board with this message of cellular activation and preaching it loudly and sharing with people,
Do it,
you are
guys.
going to lose patience to the people that are going to embrace something that you are not yet sure if you're going to. So let me just put that out there to you. If you don't have, after hearing Kelly yesterday talk about they're studying this kind of stuff in outer space, if you don't have the fear of missing out, then I would encourage you to check your pulse right now. Or your attention span or something. Get off of
Yes.
Facebook, stop scrolling and pay attention, because you're gonna miss it. And the signs are everywhere. Now this, I brought this the copy of this. This is a magazine called The Economist. Now this is a magazine with the cover story. This is March 22nd, so last month's issue of this magazine, talking about the rise of the superhuman, the medicine shift from treatment to enhancement. And I want you to, one, be rattled to your core about that word enhancement, but open your eyes at what they're trying to do. So the human being itself, our biology doesn't need enhancement. It needs activation. And the only reason they're looking for enhancement is because there has not yet been activation. And when I was back in the room, just kind of contemplating on what I was going to talk about today and praying for the words to come out of my mouth that would help you guys truly understand and grasp the magnitude of what we have, he gave me a sign. He gave me a mantra. And it's this mantra: if we don't activate, we deteriorate. I'm going to say that again. If we don't activate, we deteriorate. And the whole reason why this exists, the rise of the superhuman, why they are looking for enhancement, is because they are trying to enhance the deterioration, not activate the potential.
Yes.
Great effort, noble effort, missing the entire point. It's about activation, not enhancement. And if we activate, there's no need to enhance. That's the bottom line, guys. And that is our activation story, and it is ours alone. And then something that is coming out in the 22nd of next month. You guys have probably heard about this in the news. Time magazine on de-extincting the dire wolf. They brought back a wolf that had been extinct for 13,000 years. And so, you guys have all seen Jurassic Park? It's happening right now. And we know how Jurassic Park ended. Because when you try to enhance something, and I don't know why the dire wolf went extinct, I just know that it did. And it's a top tier predator. When you bring back top tier predators, you may cause it to cause extinction of something else. That's when I realized the flaw in the logic. They're talking about now bringing back the woolly mammoth and the dodo bird and the saber-toothed tiger and all of these other kinds of things. And I'm thinking, well, most of those are probably going to look at me as a food source, and I don't want that. But also, it's just, if you're thinking about what they're thinking about and they're putting into motion and it's actually happening, if their focus is on de-extincting something that has been extinct for 13,000 years, what if they just shifted that focus to activating what has been in us for all this time? And if we can de-extinct something, what can we do here? Everyone in this room knows already. The world is trying to figure it out. Let's focus on that. But it's in the news, my friends. It's everywhere. You're either asleep at the wheel if you don't recognize it. But if we can restore wolves, why not restore our own human vitality? And we are doing that right now. And the fact that we are the only activation company is not because we have a message that's falling on deaf ears. We just don't have enough voices to open the ears of the deaf or the intentional people that are looking the other way. Our message is so powerful, and I'm hoping that you're starting to get convinced, not by what we're saying at LifeVantage, but what the world is looking for that we already have. It just validates everything that we do. And that should give you permission and power and zeal to go out and share this message boldly. Because if you don't, we are right now at the cusp. We are at the cliff. And we are literally at the transitional point of an entire healthcare movement that will change decades in the next century. And if you don't embrace it, you're gonna miss it. I'm gonna be that bold with you, because, and I wanna kind of show you this as an illustration. That right there is where all of you, if you could look at that archery target, look what they're getting closer and they're getting closer. But the only ones who have in the bullseye of that activation story is LifeVantage and our 5 activation products that are already out there. So use this timeline, use the validation, the social proof that is out there, like Dr. Sean mentioned, with the podcasts and the books. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Once something catches on, everybody jumps on the bandwagon. And here's what I know to be true. We are the first activation company. I would love it if we came out with more, if people out there came out with NRF2 activators and NRF1 activators and NAD activators and fibroblast activators and collagen activators and MB-like products that enhance and activate GLP-1. I would love that, because then we wouldn't be the only people talking about it. And when everyone starts talking about it, we're at that tipping point. And there's a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And if you haven't read that book, read that book as far as because we are right on the tipping point. Or if you've ever heard the story of the 100th monkey, we are right there. And when it tips and the world's attention gets drawn to activation and they start talking about cellular activation, we will always be first. We have all the studies no one else has, and we have 5 activators when no one else even has 1. We will be the choice. And I'm going to close with 2 things here. If you wonder where cellular activation is now, it's kind of where cholesterol was 30 years ago. The people that were talking about cholesterol, lowering cholesterol, the importance of lowering cholesterol, and it's important. If you lower your cholesterol, it's a healthy thing. But I realized it got into the sense, or the realm of nonsensical, when Cheerios had a commercial that if you eat bowls of Cheerios every day, it lowers your cholesterol 3%. And they're talking about cholesterol being a beneficial way of lowering or Cheerios cereal being a beneficial way of lowering your cholesterol. That's when it goes the tipping point and then overboard. Because I don't ever want you to eat Cheerios to lower your cholesterol. Just activate your body, let your body do the thing. But when the world now back to reality, when the world has the same understanding of cellular activation that they do with lowering cholesterol, LifeVantage will be the #1, first and only choice for most people who are studious. And this is the thing, you are all healthcare providers. You all have a reputation to uphold, personally and professionally, which is why maybe some of you are on the brake right now or took your foot off the gas or you're a little hesitant to engage. I will tell you this, I honor the fact you want to protect your reputation. You should. You should do it. You should do everything in your power to protect your reputation. But there's something also about the oath that we take as healthcare providers. And the first is to do no harm. The second is to do everything within our power, to do everything right by our patients. And I want you to look at it this way. If you don't implement this information, and if you don't share it with your patients, and you allow someone else to do it, you are breaking the very oath you took as a healthcare provider. And I want that to sit hard with you, because this is a challenge to you. Step up now, look at the signs everywhere, embrace the power that you have, embrace your own masterpiece uniqueness. You are not a poor imitation of someone else. You are a unique masterpiece, each and every one of you. Take this time right now to see the signs, my friends. That activation story is uniquely yours. Get out there and share it loudly, because the patients of tomorrow are already looking for what you have. And here's another challenge. If a patient hears about this from someone else and they are your patient, be prepared for the conversation one day is, "Doc, you knew about this and you didn't share this with me? I'm going over there. Thank you.
Yep.
But you disturbed me." I don't want any of you to have that conversation, because they're coming. And they will only come to those who miss this. And I know you're all bright individuals, and I hope it is not you. Because this right here is the business of activation. I want to close with this. It is literally us versus them out there, the knowledgeable versus the ignorant, and that's all it is. They're just ignorant. We have knowledge of something they don't yet have. But this isn't us versus other practitioners, it's us versus the old model. It's us versus mediocrity. It's us versus wasted potential. While they're playing with precursors, patches, and peptides, we're flipping the switches at the deepest level of human biology. So I'm inviting you to join us. If you're already here, join us with every ounce of your energy and every ounce of who you are, because we are changing the world cell by cell. And I want you to think of it this way. Sick cells make sick people. Well cells make well people. Become a practitioner of wellness, not a lowerer of symptoms. And if you do that and you own that position, and whether it's inside your practice, you've got your legal things that you've got your scope of practice, honor that. Maybe start looking out on the outside of that. What could you do for people outside your sphere or in your sphere to start activating them, and watch what happens. It is literally a tipping point, my friends. So thank you, Scientific Advisory Board. Thank you for all of you to put me up here today. Thank you.